The movie opens on a dark screen as we hear a panicked voice crying out that he doesn't remember. A cold, steely voice replies, "Kill him." The scene then cuts to Jin-seok waking up in the back seat of his family's car. He's covered in sweat and looks confused, but otherwise unharmed. His mother asks if he's alright. His father laughs and tells him he was just having a nightmare. His older brother, Jin-seok, chuckles and jokes that Jin-seok was simply too excited about moving into their new house to get any sleep. Jin-seok smiles along, but something about him seems unsettled. The family arrives at their new home, and Jin-seok remarks that the place feels strangely familiar. Still, he's excited about the move. Standing beside his older brother, Jin-seok reflects on how much he admires him. Jin-seok isn't just intelligent, he's kind, caring, athletic, and never has a bad word to say about anyone. He's the envy of every boy at school. Jin-seok thinks the world of his brother, and it's easy to understand why. Even though Jin-seok was injured in a car accident the previous year and still walks with a leg injury, he's still perfect in his younger brother's eyes. As the family begins unpacking, we learn that the year is 1997. Upstairs, Jin-seok discovers that he'll be sharing a room with Jin-seok. It turns out the previous owner left some belongings behind in the smallest room and asked if he could return in a month to collect them. Jin-seok's father agreed, which means there's only one bedroom available for the two brothers to share. Jin-seok jokes that Jin-seok probably doesn't want to share a room with him, but Jin-seok insists he doesn't mind. After all, he loves his brother. That night at dinner, Jin-seok asks his father about the locked room. His father explains that it'll be cleared out in a month and tells the brothers they'll just have to be patient until then. He also warns Jin-seok never to enter the room, no matter what. The warning immediately catches Jin-seok's attention. As he looks toward the room upstairs, he hears a loud thud from above. No one else seems to notice it. When Jin-seok asks if they heard anything, his family suggests it was probably just thunder. A few moments later, another rumble of thunder echoes outside, seemingly confirming their explanation. But Jin-seok doesn't look convinced. During dinner, his parents remind him to keep taking his medication. Jin-seok nods and agrees. Later that night, Jin-seok lies in bed listening to music on his Discman while Jin-seok quickly falls asleep beside him. Suddenly, Jin-seok hears strange noises coming from the locked room. Unable to ignore them, he quietly gets out of bed to investigate. He creeps closer, hearing a rustling sound coming from behind the door. The noise gradually grows louder. He reaches the door and slowly moves his hand toward the handle. Suddenly, Jin-seok taps him on the shoulder. Jin-seok nearly jumps out of his skin before hurriedly explaining that he heard strange noises coming from inside the room. Jin-seok listens for a moment but hears nothing. He then suggests they go outside for a walk to help clear Jin-seok's mind. It's pouring rain, so the two brothers grab umbrellas and stand outside overlooking the city. A few moments later, Jin-seok receives a call from their father, asking him to come back home for a moment. Jin-seok agrees and tells Jin-seok to wait for him. Jin-seok says he will. As Jin-seok waits alone, Jin-seok is suddenly ambushed by several men in a black van outside the house. Growing impatient, Jin-seok starts walking back home. He arrives just in time to see his brother being forced into the van and driven away. Jin-seok gives chase but can't catch them. He does, however, manage to memorize the van's license plate before stumbling back inside the house. He tells his parents that Jin-seok has been kidnapped before collapsing unconscious. While passed out, Jin-seok experiences another disturbing nightmare. He sees flashes of blood, an axe swinging toward his head, heavy rain, and hears someone say, "Kill them." Then he wakes up. Later, Jin-seok is taken downstairs to speak with two detectives. He tells them everything he witnessed, including the license plate number of the black van. The detectives inform him that the license plate doesn't exist and that no vehicle matching his description has been found. Jin-seok becomes frustrated, insisting that he clearly saw the numbers. But neither detective believes him. They assume he either misread the license plate or imagined it in the chaos. The days that follow are difficult for Jin-seok and his parents. He tries to focus on his studies and continues taking his medication, but he's consumed by anxiety and fear for his missing brother. Every night, Jin-seok dreams of a strange man he doesn't recognize, a man who keeps appearing in his nightmares. One night, Jin-seok is fast asleep when he suddenly wakes. He looks across the room and notices that the door to the locked room is standing open. Even more unsettling, someone inside is slowly pushing the door farther and farther open. Frozen with fear, Jin-seok watches for a moment before diving under the covers, terrified of whoever or whatever is inside the room. A dark figure approaches and walks into the room. Jin-seok hides, terrified, waiting for the end. But when it doesn't come, he sneaks a peek and sees that his room is empty and the door is closed. Suddenly, some kind of demon woman attacks Jin-seok. He screams and then wakes up. 19 days have passed and Jin-seok returns home. He claims to have amnesia, with zero recollection of what happened or where he's been for the past 19 days. A psychiatrist explains that this is normal, just the result of extreme trauma, and that the memories will return soon enough. All they can do is wait. Jin-seok wakes in the middle of the night to find his brother is gone. He hears him leaving through the front gate but thinks nothing of it. He's relieved the next morning to wake and find him returned. Jin-seok goes to take his medication, only to drop it under the counter. When he bends down to retrieve it, Jin-seok distracts him. They order takeaway food and eat together. As Jin-seok asks his brother where he went the previous night, Jin-seok claims he went nowhere and that Jin-seok was just having a dream. Jin-seok then stands to go to class, and Jin-seok notices that he's limping on the wrong leg. Jin-seok dismisses the claim, pretending that Jin-seok is seeing things. Jin-seok seems to believe him and then goes back to eating. Jin-seok is studying until he isn't. He falls asleep at the desk, his head resting on the table. Jin-seok stands over his shoulder, watching his brother sleep. He then picks up a click-top pencil and starts clicking the lead farther and farther out, aiming it toward his brother's closed eyelid. It gets within a millimeter of piercing the eye before the lead drops back into the pencil. When it does, Jin-seok puts the pencil down and leaves the house. Jin-seok opens his eyes. Having been awake the whole time, he sees Jin-seok leave the house, so he follows him, shocked when he notices that Jin-seok is no longer limping. But things only get stranger from there. He follows Jin-seok through town farther and farther until he comes to a quiet part of the city. There, the two detectives from earlier address him as boss, and the three of them speak as if they have some kind of scheme together. Something to do with Jin-seok. Confused and terrified, Jin-seok turns to leave when he bumps into the two detectives. The detectives call Jin-seok an asshole and tell him he's ruining everything before suddenly chasing him. Jin-seok flees, and it looks like he's about to escape, only for Jin-seok to suddenly appear behind him and press a cloth over his mouth, causing him to pass out. Jin-seok wakes the next morning to find himself back in his room, sitting at the same table where he lost consciousness. Terrified, he rushes into the bathroom and locks the door as soon as Jin-seok appears. He screams that he remembers everything that happened the previous night and demands to know the truth. Jin-seok calmly insists that he's already told him the truth and claims it was all just another dream. Jin-seok refuses to believe him, and the two brothers get into a violent fight. It only ends when Jin-seok reminds Jin-seok that he forgot to take his medication the previous day, explaining that this is why his dreams felt so vivid. Jin-seok looks confused, angry, and emotionally drained, but eventually gives in and believes what his brother is telling him. Jin-seok sits him down and forces him to take his medication before leaving the house. Once he's alone, Jin-seok sits down to study. However, he notices the piece of pencil lead that Jin-seok had pushed out of the mechanical pencil the previous night, proving that he wasn't imagining any of it. When his mother returns home, Jin-seok tells her everything that happened. She looks terrified, wondering if something is wrong with Jin-seok. Jin-seok insists that whoever that man is, he isn't his real brother. Later, Jin-seok hears another noise coming from the locked storage room. Grabbing a baseball bat, he cautiously approaches the door and finally opens it. Inside, everything appears normal. The room is filled with packed furniture waiting to be collected. But as he rounds the corner, he is horrified to find his brother hanging lifeless from the ceiling. Jin-seok suddenly wakes up in bed once again. It was all another dream. He wanders downstairs and hears his mother talking on the phone in her room. Sneaking up to the door, he overhears the conversation. She's speaking to Jin-seok, telling him everything Jin-seok had told her earlier that day. It's now clear that Jin-seok was right. Something is seriously wrong. As he continues listening, he accidentally makes a noise, and his mother hears him. His mother rushes to the door and throws it open, but Jin-seok is already gone. She searches through the house to make sure he didn't overhear her conversation. Meanwhile, Jin-seok is hiding outside. When he realizes she's heading upstairs to check whether he's asleep, he has no choice but to climb up the side of the house and beat her to his room. It's pouring with rain, the walls are slippery, and the window is locked. Hanging precariously from the side of the house, Jin-seok desperately tries to climb inside while his mother gets closer and closer to his bedroom. Somehow, he manages to slip in just before she enters. She pulls back the blanket and finds him apparently asleep. He's soaking wet from the rain, but she mistakes it for sweat and quietly leaves the room. The moment she's gone, Jin-seok climbs back out the window to escape. As he sneaks outside, he hears his mother still on the phone, explaining that their cover has been blown because Jin-seok overheard her conversation. Jin-seok is about to flee when his father suddenly appears. Moments later, his mother comes outside, accompanied by a mysterious man. They call for Jin-seok to come back inside, but he runs for his life. The stranger chases him through the streets and nearly catches him, only for a passing motorcyclist to get in the way, giving Jin-seok just enough time to flag down a police car. Finally believing he's safe, Jin-seok is taken to the police station. He tries to explain everything that's happened, but even he can't make sense of it. The officers confirm his identity, but then they reveal something impossible. It's the year 2017, and according to their records, Jin-seok is actually 40 years old. Horrified, Jin-seok looks around the police station and realizes everything has changed. Then he catches sight of himself in a mirror for the first time. The reflection staring back at him isn't that of a 20-year-old man, but a middle-aged stranger. He returns home only to find the house completely empty. Making his way upstairs to the spare room, he opens the door and discovers an even more disturbing sight. Fake blood is splattered everywhere, and two blood-covered mannequins have been arranged to resemble a gruesome crime scene. Jin-seok and the people posing as Jin-seok's parents arrive. Desperate for answers, Jin-seok demands to know what's really going on. This time, they finally tell him the truth. 20 years earlier, a brutal murder took place in the very same house, inside the small storage room. The horrifying crime shocked the entire nation, but despite years of investigation, the police were never able to identify the killer. 6 years later, the victim's family hired Jin-seok, a private investigator, to continue the search. According to him, he eventually tracked down the murderer, Jin-seok. The only problem was that Jin-seok had no memory of committing the crime. It was as if those memories had been completely erased. In a desperate attempt to recover them, they devised an elaborate plan. They brainwashed Jin-seok into believing it was 1997 again and recreated his old life, convincing him that he had just moved into the murder house with his family. Jin-seok and the two people pretending to be his parents. Their goal was to reenact the events leading up to the murder, hoping the familiar surroundings would trigger his lost memories. However, on the night they intended to recreate the crime, Jin-seok was unexpectedly arrested on unrelated charges, and Jin-seok witnessed it. The entire plan fell apart, forcing them to change their approach. As they drive Jin-seok toward the police station, Jin-seok makes one final attempt to force him to remember what he supposedly did. Jin-seok insists he never killed anyone. Before they can question him any further, he suddenly jumps out of the moving car and runs. A frantic chase follows as Jin-seok races through heavy traffic. In the chaos, Jin-seok crashes the car, killing the fake mother and father while seriously injuring himself. Just when it seems Jin-seok has escaped, he's struck by an oncoming car and knocked unconscious. The impact finally unlocks his forgotten memories. He remembers himself as a 20-year-old riding in a car with his real parents and his older brother. It's the same scene shown at the beginning of the film, but this time the full truth is revealed. The car crashes, killing both of his parents and leaving his brother critically injured. Now alone, Jin-seok desperately needs money to pay for his brother's life-saving surgery. The operation must happen immediately if there's any hope of saving him, but the cost is far beyond what he can afford. He searches everywhere for work, but with no education or qualifications, no one is willing to hire him. One night, while browsing the internet for jobs, he receives a message from an anonymous user asking whether he would truly do anything for the money he needs. Jin-seok answers yes. The anonymous user then offers him a horrifying job to kill a woman in exchange for the money. The only condition is that her children must not be harmed. Desperate and out of options, Jin-seok sneaks into the woman's house, the very same house he's been living in throughout the film. He quietly enters her bedroom and prepares to kill her, but at the last moment, he can't bring himself to do it. Just as he's about to leave, the woman wakes up and catches him standing inside her room. Jin-seok begs the woman not to scream, promising that he's leaving. But before he can escape, her young daughter comes downstairs, sees him, and begins screaming. Panicked, Jin-seok chases after her, and in the struggle, he accidentally kills her. Hearing the commotion, the mother rushes in, screaming in horror. In another moment of panic, Jin-seok accidentally kills her as well. The only person he spares is the family's infant son. Jin-seok gently tells the little boy to go into his room and count from 1 to 100. If he does, he says, his mother and sister will come back. Believing him, the boy runs into his room and starts counting while Jin-seok quietly leaves the house. It turns out the person who hired Jin-seok was his brother's doctor. The doctor wanted his own wife dead so he could collect her life insurance money, Believing it was the only way to save his family from financial ruin, Jin-seok confronts the doctor on a rooftop, horrified that anyone could order such a terrible crime. The doctor insists he had no other choice, claiming the insurance payout was the only way to keep his family from ending up on the streets. Unable to accept his justification, Jin-seok argues with him, and the confrontation turns violent. During the struggle, Jin-seok accidentally pushes the doctor off the roof, killing him. Back in the present day, Jin-seok wakes up in a hospital. His fake brother is waiting beside his bed, furious that Jin-seok managed to escape yet again. This time, however, he has no intention of letting him live. He pulls out a syringe filled with poison and prepares to inject him. Just then, Jin-seok admits that he finally remembers everything. The fake brother then reveals his true identity. He is the little boy Jin-seok spared all those years ago. Ever since that night, his life has been destroyed. His relatives stole the insurance money left behind after his family's deaths and abandoned him in an orphanage. He asks the question that has haunted him his entire life. Did his father really hire Jin-seok to kill his mother? Jin-seok lies, telling him that no one hired him and that he acted alone. Wanting the boy to be free of the burden, he takes all the blame upon himself. The fake brother then asks why Jin-seok spared his life. Why leave him alive to suffer in such a cruel world? Unable to bear the truth any longer, the fake brother throws himself out of the hospital window, taking his own life. Overwhelmed by guilt and unable to live with the pain he has caused, Jin-seok takes the poisoned syringe and injects himself. In the film's final flashback, it's revealed that on the day of the car accident that killed Jin-seok's parents, he briefly met the little boy who would one day become his fake brother, completely unaware of how their lives would become tragically intertwined forever, bringing Forgotten to its tragic and emotional conclusion.